We cover many serious issues in this podcast. This discussion may contain reference to domestic violence, sexual violence, violence against children, suicide, drug use, or graphic depictions of death or dead bodies. It is not suitable for all audiences.
Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries Rewind, two friends get together to discuss episodes of their favorite television show, Unsolved Mysteries. Will they find answers? Will anyone care? You may be able to solve a mystery.
You are listening to Unsolved Mysteries Rewind. My name is Kim. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you. We're happy to have you here on this very dark episode.
Yeah, this one's, I think it has ups and downs. I'm going to try to point out the positive things I see.
I would appreciate that because they are few and far between. We are talking season 11, episode 12, which originally aired all the way in August of 2002.
Now, I have to let's just point this out for just a moment. How many episodes are in a season for Unsolved Mysteries about?
It varies.
I mean, it varies between like 12 and maybe...
like 24.
Yeah. So let's say we're in the middle of the 11th season. Mm-hmm. The show's been on for over a decade, and they release an episode like this, which is just as hard-hitting, if not more hard-hitting, than season one. It's crazy, the consistency that Unsolved Mysteries brings to the table, and it's kind of why you and I get tricked. We will choose an episode because we love the title. It's like going into a record store, if you remember a record store. And you're like, ooh, I like the way this record looks. And it's like you go home and it's like, this is the worst sounding thing I've ever heard. And with Unsolved Mysteries, sometimes you really have to dive into the story a little bit before you just make a decision. So we get tricked, but I don't think that we've yet reviewed an episode that I considered a weak episode.
No, they're all great. And something I've noticed more in the later episodes is that the cases they're talking about become more current with the episodes. So, like, all of these are, like, 98 to 2002 when this episode aired in 2002. So it's fresh.
All of a sudden, there's cell phones instead of beepers.
It's crazy. So I was 13 in 2002. What? I do not have any recollection of this still being on the air.
Well, wasn't it on another network at this point?
Yeah, I moved to Lifetime, I think, in the 2000s.
Yeah, we really have to come up with like a real timeline, I think. And you definitely dove into the basics of it, but I wonder who owned it at this point, and there's a lot of things like that I kind of wonder. But even when a show is sold to another network or it changes hands, very often the show itself will be compromised. It'll be really changed, but not Unsolved Mysteries. No,
the only thing that changes is poor little Robert Stack getting older and older. My God, he was old.
Broke my heart in this episode.
He was really frail.
Yeah. When did he pass away? Do you happen to know?
He died, I think, in 2003.
Yeah, I mean. And you were, 13, 14 at that time?
14, yeah.
I want to put things into perspective here. I was married in 2003. But, so, hilarious. So, Kim wanted to feel young, so I just made her feel a lot younger. Younger than me anyway. So, we have, I forgot where I was going with this whole thing, but the bottom line is when things change and they change hands, and as he gets older, his voice just sounds a little bit like he's aging at this point. Yeah. And he was in his 80s at this point.
Yeah, like deep into him, like 86, 88, something like that. But God love him, he's still doing them. So our first case, if we just want to jump right in, is in Boonville, Missouri. We're talking February 11th of 2002. So seriously,
it's my mother's
6 months.
birthday. Was my mother's birthday, yeah.
Oh, well, very nice. 6 months before this aired. So
that's a great point, actually. I mean, this is something that is really fresh in the news.
Yeah, and in the witnesses' minds and everything. It's just, hasn't had time to heal. So we have a 43-year-old nurse's aide, widow, and mother of two named Janice Owen. At around 2:15 on Monday, February 11th, she leaves her shift at a nursing facility, and she heads for home about half a block away. Now, at 3:10, her 8-year-old daughter, Alyssa, is on her way home. She gets off the school bus, and she was alone that day on the school bus because her older brother had been dropped off earlier at a babysitter's. I kind of would like to know more about that. But
yeah, me too. Do we know the age difference between the 8-year-old and the brother?
No, I don't, but I know that she was a late-in-life baby because the father passed away when she was 3, and he was 61 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so around 5 p.m., so an hour, almost 2 hours after little Alyssa comes home, Janice's mother, Frances, stops by and just, peeks inside, sees Alyssa's little jacket thrown down in her backpack, just, like a kid coming home from school, just sheds everything. And she doesn't see anybody, but she does leave a note. So about 45 minutes later, Amy Pulliam, the neighbor, says that she spotted 2 cars outside of the house and a young man and a woman just kind of like hanging out on the porch of Janice's house. She said, I didn't really know Janice that well, but when I drove past, these people were staring me down.
The reenactment was weird.
Yeah. Creepy. It was so creepy.
It looked like they were setting up a garage sale or something. Like the way they were just kind of standing around. Like, what are you doing? It just seemed very strange. But I guess it's not the most uncommon thing to see in the world. It's just, who are these complete strangers and why are they staring me down?
Yeah, and the red hat guy, I swear, if you watch him, he does not blink one time the entire time that they show him. He is so creepy.
Well, they do that slow pass later when he's in the truck. Yeah, I know, that gave you the cringes. Like,
to my core of my being. Like, it was so creepy. So, about 6 o'clock, actually, Amy, again, notices a white car that's parked on the wrong side of the street in front of Janice's house, and she sees, like, an maybe 40-year-old man outside of it this time. So she's like, something's not right, but
now in my neighborhood, if you were to do this, like, they would freak out. Like, they're such, like, they're a little bit nutsy here in the suburbs. And I would, no doubt, if I were to park my car on the opposite side, I would have 4 squad cars here.
No, we are the same way. Like, we have a neighborhood Facebook page. I live in the
that's good,
boonies.
Yeah.
We have a neighborhood Facebook, and they're like, I see a red truck. I've never seen a red truck. Here's the license plate. He's going about 30 miles an hour and that 29, and they are so crazy about it.
It's mine.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wait, is that Daryl's? But I don't know. It's if you're not recognized or if you're going like a little too slow, everybody's like peeking out the blinds in my neighborhood. It's nice, but it's
God
crazy.
bless them. I think that's great. I think the more we know, the more we know. We need to know who is outside of your house.
Yeah, and they kind of pride themselves on being like the neighborhood watch with like no shirt and like a shotgun. That's kind of if just setting the scene. I'm not hating.
There's no beer, people. There's no beer.
Oh, not anymore. No, let's go take the ATV down to go get some.
I love those though.
Yeah. Oh, they're the best. But I digress. So,
but that's the world we live in, though. Because of, if you watch Unsolved Mysteries, I probably at one point in your life you're going to want to form some form of a neighborhood watch.
It's scary. No, I really have been like keeping my head on a swivel because of Unsolved Mysteries and how much I'm diving into these stories.
Yeah, we have cameras. I mean, you mentioned you have protection cameras. I have cameras everywhere in my house, and I'm always kind of like, what's this person doing at 4 a.m.? Oh, they're walking their dog. All right.
Jerks. No, I'm a jogger, so I'll go jogging, but I have like my little stun gun with me when I go jogging, and I'm constantly keeping my head around. Like they always pick off the joggers. So on Tuesday, hopefully Unsolved Mysteries is making us more protected, but on Tuesday, February 12th, 2002, about 8:45 a.m., 12 miles away in a town called Fayette, Missouri. 3 men spot something on the side of the road, and they find little Elisa's body, and she has been sexually assaulted.
And just dumped, really.
Dumped on the side of the road like garbage. It's so upsetting.
Now, I don't believe they mentioned that she was sexually assaulted.
No, this is a deep dive original, but we can get to that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gets into more of a conversation later when we find out more about what had happened. But they claim that they would have seen the body because they had driven back and forth in this one part of the road.
Well, there's another guy who says that he just drove past it 15 minutes earlier and it wasn't there. But he is somebody who's like picking garbage up off the side of the road. So he would have seen it.
Oh, so maybe I confused it. Maybe it was him versus the other guys.
Yeah, I think you might have merged those two stories in your mind. But he was like on the lookout for unusual things on the side of the road because he was picking up the garbage.
Now, this was also in February. So it's winter time and they're just dumping a body on the side of the road. You were saying that you think it might be out of guilt or they wanted this child to be found.
Yeah, I mean, that was just off the top of my head that because it's such an obvious spot, I think that they just wanted her body taken care of more because we learn later that there is another person who dies whose body is hidden like way deep out in the woods. So I think that it was some kind of weird guilt, but that's just me thinking I'm a criminal profiler.
All right, there you go. So yeah, they call the police. And this is when I rewound and I was like, oh, this is a very current story because I am normally found with Unsolved Mysteries that nobody has cell phones, right? Because it's usually in the 80s. But I was really amazed by that because, you know, you always hear the joke about like horror movies, how most of them could just be squashed if somebody had a cell phone. Exactly. So they call up, they call 911, I guess, and the police come and they determine that the body has been dead for 6 to 8 hours. So it's really a fresh killing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So they don't have any missing persons that match the body. So this small town police agency calls the schools in town to see who was absent that day. And I'm like, good for you. That is excellent police work.
Exactly. I mean, it's, even if it ends up not working, it just makes me feel safe that somebody's keeping an eye on absolutely everywhere where things could be occurring.
And this happened within 3 hours of finding the body. So they did not waste a moment. I'm so proud of this because it is a small little town. They said the population was like 8,200. I'm sure they don't see, little girls sexually assaulted and murdered every day. So I was really proud of how they handled that.
I found out recently, my little hamlet, my town that I live in, has only 6,000 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I mean, we're surrounded by other towns. Have other thousands of people, but my zip code only has about 6,000 people.
I always think of you as the big city.
Me too. I feel good now. I'm a country boy.
Yeah.
Not quite.
So a little after noon that day, Detective Bob Welliver, who now is the chief of police, good on him. It sounds like he earned it. He drives over to deliver the news that they found Alyssa's body to her mom.
Oh my God. This is always one of those things where this is why I could never have been a cop. Delivering this kind of news, it would ruin me for so long.
Absolutely. Let alone the things you're seeing, like finding this girl. So,
and this is just part of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I couldn't imagine the kind of news that these people have to deliver.
Yeah. So there's no answer. He just walks on in, doesn't see anything amiss, still sees a little sweater and a little backpack on the ground, which just... Oh, I could just see it happening. Can't you just see it happening? This little girl comes home, just sheds everything. Hi, Mom, where are you? And then
swoop.
Meets trouble. Yeah. So at 1:00 on Wednesday, the coroner tells the detective that he found out that Alyssa had died from suffocation. And because they can't find Janice, the mother, she's actually considered the main suspect in the killing.
Which makes sense. I mean, it makes sense on paper, of course.
Absolutely. So a few people have reported seeing like a dark green, older 1960s pickup truck near the house, and the sanitation worker saw it with the unblinking red man driving past him. Mm-hmm. So 6 weeks after all of this has happened, we don't have any leads on where Janice is. Sadly, Janice's body is found 12 miles away in a creek bed, and she was found by city employees doing prescribed burns. She was still wearing her scrubs, and she was either suffocated or drowned. They couldn't tell because so much time had passed.
Now, what are prescribed burns? Is that where they burn the ground so that it doesn't catch a fire or something?
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like they do the little fire to prevent a big fire, from all the debris that builds up of like pine needles, pine cones, that kind of stuff that goes up like tinder.
I wonder if that would be in the person's mind that, like, if I throw a body in there, it's going to get burnt up. But there's really no fuel, though. There's no... You can't just burn a body because it has some sticks on it.
And she's in a creek.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so...
but no, that's an interesting thought. These people, I think they tried to really abandon these people, but thank goodness they were found,
These are not, we do find out later, without spoiling the outcome, we do find that these are not the most mature of people. They're not so smart. Maybe what they're learning is how to do all this is really from like movies or something.
Yeah, probably so. And trial and error, I doubt this would be when they stopped. So if they weren't caught, but we leave Unsolved Mysteries in 2002 with police thinking that the suspect is someone local because of how they navigated the backwoods. Like there was no outlets to these backwoods roads and stuff. So they definitely think it was someone local.
And it makes sense too.
Yeah. No, sorry. So we find out they were very local. They actually lived 2.2 miles away from the Owens house. I MapQuested it, or Google Maps.
How many miles? 7?
2.2 miles.
Oh my God. So they're like literally in the same neighborhood. And you also found very startling information that Janice's coworker was one of these people.
Yeah, so we have Janice's coworker, 25-year-old Angela Mize, and her husband, 18-year-old Eric Mize, who, just to add some extra outrage, was on probation on the time of this. So he was out because he was on probation and he committed this crime.
Do we know why he was on probation?
Yeah, it was like receiving stolen property and possession of under 35 grams of marijuana. So I don't know how many grams that is. It's such a high number.
Right, but not really something where it's not like attacking anybody or anything like that.
No, not attacking anybody. And in June, they actually were able to serve search warrants. I couldn't tell what made the police look in their direction in the first place, but I was pouring through the court records. The authorities searched their home and they found little trophies belonging to sweet little Alyssa, including buttons from her dress that she was wearing and buckles from her shoes.
Oh my God.
They actually believe that the couple is a pair, a duo of sexual sadists and pedophiles, and that they killed Janice to get her out of the way so that they could have access to Alyssa. And they just made this poor little girl's last moments of her life just an absolute hell.
I'm just thinking that the scenario must have been Janice's coworker. Angela's working with her. Maybe Janice spoke about her daughter and like it started out like an innocent type of thing. A friendship. Sure. And this person's like a complete demented psycho and thought, okay, we're going to target this girl. We have her exact address. We know she's home alone.
Yeah. Or maybe had like pictures of her in her office or something. And, Eric comes home one day and he's like, oh, you know what I'm really into? And she goes, oh, I have the perfect candidate for that. I know someone who has a kid.
Yeah. There's also that there's an age difference there that is somewhat equal to what my wife and I have, because I started dating my wife when she was 18 and I was 23. 4, something like that.
Oh,
and yeah. But and there is that different age group. So I'm wondering who's really the brains behind this, really. And I'm going to point at Angela because being the older person. And not to say that Eric is, he always just a victim, but it just seems to me that this might have been all really orchestrated by Angela. She's being the more mature woman. Has a job, she's not on probation. And it's just, the whole thing is so heartbreaking.
It totally is. And I couldn't agree more with you, actually. I think that my non-politically correct comment of the day is that women are more conniving and manipulative and men are just more like brute force and muscle, So I definitely think that she orchestrated this, set it up, connected the dots between her and Janice,
Right.
It's
Well, I
just
could
horrible.
flip that a little bit to a positive, and that's women for the most part are more they're more thinkers. They could orchestrate things, and they can they could see the next few steps that need to be taken, and the possibilities and the outcomes, while men are really kind of like, well, I could pick up the bag.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with you at all, but unfortunately in this wackadoo's mind it went completely dark,
Yeah. But it's a real sad story because although they were caught, we still have these victims.
Yeah, absolutely. The victims, Janice and Alyssa, are buried together, which is nice.
Yeah.
And in Fayette, Grandma Frances is still alive and kicking at 89 at the time of this recording. And Eric and Angela could not make their love last in prison. They divorced in 2006. And Eric, this piece of garbage, keeps trying to appeal, but he pled. So it's pretty stupid. And he's like, I should have had a different judge because this judge was against me in my other cases, blah, blah, blah. And the judge was like, no, there's no new evidence. So I am upholding your guilty plea. So they are both rotting away in jail. We will post their very current mugshots on our
really?
Facebook
You
page.
have that? Of course you have that. Oh, my God.
I got that. Yeah, on our Facebook page, Unsolved Mysteries Rewind Podcast at Facebook.
What a dick. All right.
I know. So speaking of... we're going to talk about David Lee Kemp.
Well, I was watching this with my wife, and immediately she goes, this is why I tell you to lock all the doors. And this is why maybe you should lock all the doors.
Yeah, I felt bad. I felt like they were kind of blaming Robert for not locking the door.
Me
but
too.
But like at the same time, this guy would have gotten the job done one way or another.
Yeah, so we have Christina and Robert. They kind of found each other. Christina's coming from kind of a rocky relationship, and they seem pretty happy together. Like, everybody's saying that they were really good for each other. She had come from a really terrible relationship. Very abusive relationship. They were saying her self-esteem was deflated and just not who she was. And Robert really brought out who she used to be, maybe. And
and they're so young. Robert is only 26. Christina, or Tina, she went by, was only 25. And they only recently started dating because she is fresh out of this relationship. I think they said she was married for 5 years to this guy, David Lee Kemp, her husband. And her sister-in-law, LaDonna, says that he was just the most abusive scumbag you could imagine.
And you pointed out that in their wedding pictures, she's so, like, bubbly looking and happy. And you can kind of almost... we all know this girl, like this, she's just sweet. She seems like a nice person, and he's like I want to kill a puppy or something. Like,
yeah. And I'm sure Unsolved Mysteries like picked the worst ones, but in every picture, he's just like glaring in the distance and she's like, it's my wedding day. It's so crazy.
Yeah. It's just, and he's a good looking guy. So I'm wondering if like, maybe she was just like, well, he's handsome. I'm going to put up with it. I'm not really sure.
Mean, once you get in, it's almost impossible to leave. I've put some studies at the end of this, our shared Google Docs here, but it is clinically proven that the absolute most dangerous time for a woman in an abusive relationship is when they try and leave, when they try and break with the abuser, because it is all about the man, usually the man, having control over the woman. And when he realizes that control is leaving, that's when she is most likely to be murdered by him. And it is a fact that statistically in the United States, the absolute most dangerous place for a woman is in her own home.
Oh, Jesus.
Isn't that horrible? There's no safe space. A woman is more likely than not to get killed by her spouse. Well, I don't know if I should say more likely than not, but more likely to be killed at home than anywhere else.
I feel like whenever we have episodes like this, maybe we should even kind of have preface the episode with, I don't know, an outreach level of communication.
I love that.
And maybe even a warning, because I think a lot of people might, I don't know. I don't think you're listening to Unsolved Mysteries if you're easily triggered by something. But
Yeah, but it couldn't hurt because we had some child sexual abuse and domestic violence like this. If any episode deserves a trigger.
Yeah, we should definitely, maybe this episode or something, we'll talk about it afterward and put together something. But I just think it would be the responsible thing for you to do, Kim.
Okay. I will take it as my plight as a woman. I will do it. But
Thank you. Thank you for your courage.
So Robert left his front door unlocked, which a little victim blaming if you're asking me, and a man comes in and shoots Robert dead.
Right away, though. I mean, from what we can tell, it happens right away.
From what we can tell, Robert turns around to be like, Tina, is that you? And bam, 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 bam. So Tina comes out of the shower and she's like, Robert, are you okay? And he shoots her dead. And oh my God, this poor girl, she's only 25 years old. And just 5 days before the murders occurred, her divorce from David Lee Kemp was finalized. So she said that he had been stalking her, according to her. You know, we were talking about physical and mentally abusive. And he was writing notes and like leaving it on her car. You know, if I can't have you, nobody can. That whole kind of thing.
Now, with that, okay. Thank goodness I've never been in a situation where I'm leaving people creepy notes and stuff like that, unless you deduct like 7th grade. But, and I'm not making light of it. I'm not making a joke. But what is the end game here? Like, okay, you know what? This note has really convinced me. I'm going to come back to you, and we're going to go back to you beating the shit out of me.
I mean, that makes sense, but these thoughts don't travel in rational channels. You know what I mean? He wouldn't be in his right mind if he wouldn't be doing this in the first place.
But is there an end game, do you think?
Yeah, he wants her back or wants to punish her for doing that. I think he does want to scare her and punish her.
Is it like the alcoholic who stops drinking for a month and, then it goes back, you know? It's like everything's fine for a short amount of time. I don't know. It's really sad, and it's one of those things that I really, I can't imagine being in that type of physically abusive relationship and not knowing how to escape. And then escaping and this happening.
Yeah, that's everybody's fear. And by the way, this is one case, a drop in the bucket of how many times it happens. It's so sad.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, it's horrible. It's like once that roller coaster starts, like there's almost no getting off of it, and it's terrifying. So Rob's like best friend is a police officer who responded to the scene of the crime, which was interesting. He had to leave because that's his friend there. So Tina's family saw on the news that there was a shooting, and they were in front of the Falcon Ridge apartments, and they wouldn't say the names, but her family knew that was Robert's apartment. So they were able to piece together what had happened from the newscast, which has got to be horrible to find out.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, can you imagine getting your news from the news? I mean, this is something that's personally happening to you. You should know sooner.
My God, how just insult to injury, like that everybody's finding out at the same time you're finding out. And oh my God, how scary. I'm sure you're calling them panicked, hoping that it was a mistake, it was somebody else. But Detective John Whittington comes on to say that David, the ex-husband, is a suspect because of motive and because of past threats. Yeah. So she told LaDonna, her sister-in-law, days before the murders, that it was the calm before the storm because she hadn't heard from David in a while. God, what a horrible feeling that she must have had. I hate all kinds of murders, but it's extra horrible when the person's last moments of life, days, months, are just in terror.
Yeah, you don't know if the person moved on and everything's cool now, or this person's, cleaning their gun.
Yeah, or maybe they're just better at stalking you. They're still doing it, but you can't catch them as easily. Like, it's horrifying. So the day after the murder, David Kemp left town. They think that it was him getting the divorce papers that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So police talked to a man who claims that he sold David a .45 handgun. And for some reason, he held on to the shell casings from that gun. And so he gave it to the police, and the police were like, yep, we did ballistics tests. This is the exact same gun that killed her. I know why casings, I just saw you said Q-shed, like, casings are ID'd to guns because of, like, little marks on the inside of guns. Like, I guess every gun's different.
That's what I've heard, but wouldn't it change over time?
Yeah, it would change over time. So unless they were just recent, I mean, maybe David wasn't only got the gun for this purpose.
I just would love to know what the odds are that you could duplicate this. I'm not saying this in this case. Just we always hear things like, well, I can ID the, the slug, or not really the slug, but the actual casings to the gun. So
exactly. I mean, the way that I can tell them, the way Forensic Files has taught me in my amateur detective degree, is that it's like a fingerprint almost, that each gun is unique on the inside of it. But I'm sure you're right. I've seen ones where they try and like put like a paper clip all bent up and like swirl it around in there to try and throw them off.
What if I use titanium? That's not going to scratch.
We're giving people bad ideas.
What if I 3D print it? Don't 3D print a gun. Don't 3D print a gun.
Don't do it.
I'm going to do it.
We can, we cannot be held responsible for your behavior off the air. So 2 weeks after the murders, they do like a be on the lookout for David Lee Kemp, and CHP, California Highway Patrol, contacts the police in Oklahoma saying that they actually spotted his vehicle. It was broken down and abandoned just outside of Bishop, California. So while the cops making that report, they make it seem a man fitting Kemp's description just like walks down the highway, and CHP was like, hey, we'd like to talk to you. And he just takes off.
In the reenactment, he just hops like a fence. It's humorous because it's like, what are you doing? Like, obviously this isn't going to stop if you hop a fence.
I know. And he completely cornered himself because he ends up in like a car salvage lot. And so he takes the .45 gun that he is thought to have shot Christina and Robert with. He takes it and he holds it to his gun he holds it to his head for a 2-hour standoff with the police. So he's like making demands to the police that he wants to call his mom and talk to her. So they, I'm sorry, but on Unsolved Mysteries, they show like an old Nokia phone duct taped to a piece of string.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, make it a short call. I only have some minutes left.
I know, my rollover minute.
Well, this is before all that. Well, no, this is 2002, so yeah.
Yeah.
This is the day of
rollover.
It should have been like a razor phone.
Oh my God, your lips to God's ears. That would have been amazing. But...
like a flip phone. But yeah, it's like this big, you know what it looks like? It looks like a cop phone, the kind of thing that they would have.
It looks like it belongs on a belt holster.
Yeah.
So,
and it's one of those things where this complete jerk wants to talk to his mom.
I know. I hate this guy. I have so much to say about this guy. He's like this stereotypical abuser. Like, oh, I'm just a little baby. I need to talk to my mommy. So he calls his mom and is like, Mom, nice knowing you. Toodaloo. Like, because he's going to kill himself. And the cops, while he's distracted, shoot beanbags at him.
Yeah. This is always awesome, in my opinion.
Heck yeah. And the reenactment was great. Like, I honestly thought they spent some money on this reenactment. So.
No, this was great. This was like in a cool salvage yard. I don't know if you've ever been to like these kind of salvage yards. I don't know if you're really the type to hang out in salvage yards. But
no, not especially.
But I restore cars every once in a while, so it's like I will frequent these things. And they have a guy who you hop into the car and he just drives you around like he's blind. Like he's not blind, but he drives like he's blind because there's no laws or rules because you're just in this car and he's flooring it. It doesn't seem to have a speed that's below 60. And he's, and it's crazy. And that's exactly what it looks like.
I would have loved if that guy took him out during the standoff.
He might have. No, the horn wouldn't work in this car. And,
true.
like have a squeaky horn. But it's a really crazy thing. So when I'm looking at this, I thought that what a cool scene to do all of this, and it's kind of a chaotic scene.
And there's all the cops, standing with their doors out as like shields and holding guns on them and stuff. It was very cool.
Now, I mean, a lot of people would say, why, let him shoot himself. Of course, he doesn't have the nerve to actually take himself out. He's too much of a narcissist.
Exactly.
But they when they shot him, it was very dramatic, and it took him down. And even the reenactor had this look of surprise of like, "You got me."
I know. Did you really shoot me? Like, am I bleeding? Like, that's how he looked. So he's executed. No, he's extradited back to Oklahoma, and you think that's the end of the story?
No,
but on March,
they just like kind of shove it forward, and they throw the turbo on. He's one of 9 inmates to escape from prison on March 11th, 1999. Mm-hmm. But 8 of them are recaptured, all but this guy. This guy who, I mean, I don't know what the other guys did to get into the prison, but the one guy who's, you know, maybe covered himself in oil and they couldn't grab onto him, but he escapes fully. He gets out of prison, and he's seen going towards Texas. And for 3 months, he's on a run.
Yeah, and they find him in Las Vegas, but they didn't know it was him. This is kind of a red herring, but the hotel manager walks in because the guy hadn't paid his rent. He walks in, he sees him like bleeding in the bathtub, and he's like, I'm trying to kill myself because I feel bad, I guess. And they were just superficial wounds, which I totally called because I was like, there's no way this guy is going to take himself out. Just like you said, he is a narcissist to the core. So he was like, he was checked in as a John Doe and checked himself out.
You know what I think this was? I genuinely think, you know how in a previous episode we had the professional hospital checker-inner guy?
Yeah, Tom Hughes,
I think this guy was living in this hotel, didn't have the money to pay. So what he was going to do is harm himself, have the guy come in, call an ambulance, then he goes to the hospital, gives a fake name, and then he doesn't have to pay the hospital. I mean, he doesn't have to pay the hotel, goes to another hotel. He was probably living in the hotel the whole time.
Oh, my God.
Probably owed, like, a lot of money to them. Like, you know, it's just such a, you know, you cut yourself, you cut your thumb. I mean, it creates a lot of blood, and who knows what's going on.
Especially if you're sitting in a bathtub, you know, that spreads out. So, I hate him. He's such a manipulative, you know, like you said, he's oily. He's you can't catch him.
But I think that the guy was finally smart enough. And in 2013, he finally turned himself in.
After 14 years on the run.
You know, it's a pretty big commitment to have to look over your shoulder for 14 years, all because she didn't like you anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line, right?
He said that he turned himself in because he was so stressed out about being on the run and because he was tired of looking over his shoulder. And it's like, oh my God, you poor little multi-murderer. I feel so bad for you.
This is not to attack anybody who has genuine PTSD, but I could see him saying like he is a form of PTSD because he was on the run.
Basically, which, by the way, is also one more way to blame Tina. Instead of taking responsibility for what you did, you are saying that you are the victim of her because she made you so mad that you just had to kill her. If
Tina let me use her like a punching bag, everything would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't have had to have held a barbecue fork to a security guard's neck so we could all run away. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately, he's still alive.
Yeah, and we will post resources to domestic violence hotlines and stuff like that because I do think it's important because I'm sure it can feel very isolating.
But, you know, I'm not to get, like, down that rabbit hole, but I think we all know people. And you know what? I hopefully maybe a lot of people listening don't know people who are going through this type of thing or have gone through it. But I've never met somebody who left an abusive relationship who regretted it.
Yeah.
But it's scary. It's taking that leap of that security and this like phony love that the person's putting out there.
And
it's just
a lot of times
scary.
Yeah, absolutely. It's horrifying. A lot of times the abuser will isolate the victim from family and friends and be like, oh, you don't have to work. I'll take care of you. So they don't have any money, any friends, any escape route, usually a couple kids. Like, it's just that abusers know what they're doing, and so anything we can do to keep victims one step ahead. I mean, it's just horrible.
Well, the next one is very lighthearted. Oh, wait. No, it's not.
No, my God, this was hit after hit after hit this episode.
This one is back in 2000. It's the millennia. It's Y2K didn't happen. Woo!
Oh, my God, I've never felt so alive.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, it's a new world, right? It's a technologically advanced world, and
that's a really good point. I didn't put this in the frame of Y2K, but this does have technological panic all over it.
Yeah, it really. Well, I think the internet in general had a bit of a hiatus from, if you don't mind me looking into it too metaphorically, but from 1997 to about 2003, I feel as though the entire internet was on hiatus. And you were able to do literally anything you wanted. In the sense, when I say hiatus, I meant there was no growth, it was only use. And it was just a stagnant cesspool of garbage.
Yeah. I felt so much for this girl because I was this girl. Almost exactly.
Yeah, you told me a personal story that I personally think was kind of shocking, especially for a child to see.
That is one of maybe 50 interactions I had with creepy men on the internet. And as they say, okay, so we meet sweet little Utahian 15-year-old Trisha Autry. They describe her, oh my God, I was like, this hits too close to home, but they describe her as a normal teenage girl, energetic, insecure, and eager to be liked. I was like, oh, all right. I'm not the one on trial here.
Did you have a Benetton sweatshirt on?
Pretty much. It was so neat.
It's June 24th, so school in New York anyway, it has just ended.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing. It's kind of like, well, what am I going to do this summer? You know, it's kind of like I'm up late. I'm able to, you have that like kind of new freedom that is all of a sudden in front of you.
And your parents don't super know how to work it yet, so you can kind of get away with some stuff. But if I was on there and some boy told me that they thought I was pretty, especially when I'm a 14-year-old girl, oh my God, I would have met them. I would have done horrible things. My
wife too. My wife met me that. No, my wife did not meet me that way. But, but when my wife was a kid, they used to talk to people on a CB. Did you ever do this?
No, that's so funny.
And her girlfriend went to meet somebody on a CB.
God, that's so scary.
And they never showed up. And I'm like, you were going to be killed like that night.
Oh my God.
But the person didn't show up. And it was like a man.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Oh yeah, it always is. It always is. Thank goodness.
All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail the thing. But it is very scary. And like you're saying, you're a 14-year-old girl and you know what? Maybe it's like the guy on the other side is a 20-year-old guy, and he knows maybe the things that a 14-year-old girl might want to hear.
Exactly.
And it's being sweet, and it's being nice, and he's everything that you kind of want.
Because unlike most of the stories that we do, predators know who they can go after. He sees this girl. She's a little chubby. I'm not hating. If you saw my high school pictures, I swear we were twins.
She's a beautiful young lady.
Beautiful smile, red hair, but she feels so insecure. You know when you're in high school and you got like an extra 10 pounds because puberty, and it happens to all of us, and then you look back and you're like, God, I wish I was as fat as I thought I was then. Like you think you are just disgusting when you're a 14-year-old girl because of images and all that kind of stuff.
You stare at yourself 1 foot away from the mirror constantly. It's just...
Exactly. Yeah, so poor little Trisha, and we're all kind of going down a rabbit hole because this whole internet thing turns out to be a red herring, but it is interesting. Yeah. So she would write stories, they say, to kind of meet men, and they said all night she's just clicking, clacking on the computer in the chat rooms all night. So her mom walks into her room one day, and she is not there. She only left with the clothes on her back, like her wallet was there, her school ID was there, and her mom said she was wearing dirty clothes. And her mom's pretty pragmatic about it. She says, if my daughter was going to go hook up with some guy who she met off the internet, I don't think she would wear dirty clothes.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and so the night she disappeared, she was on the computer all night. Because it's summer, her sister Brianne's like watching TV until 2 o'clock in the morning.
I just got to think, I just thought, it's also possible that this girl, sorry, I'm like Mr. Clearing Throat today. I'm like Robert Stack here.
Too soon.
Yeah, too soon. So, I knew a lot of girls who would have different outfits, like they would have, their more mature outfits that they would wear when they went out, that their parents either didn't know about or wouldn't approve of. And it could be that situation.
Putting in a backpack. Yeah, we're putting clothes in a backpack and sneaking out.
Yeah, like I'm going to put this dirty sweatshirt and sweatpants over my outfit, and then when I leave, you take it off. So, and I'm not talking about an S&M outfit. I'm talking about just a regular mature type of outfit.
Yeah, maybe a little lower cut than
Right.
your dad would want you outside.
I mean,
with a
she
boy
is going
in.
through puberty after all, and this is somebody who I'm sure was talking about these changes, and this is something that you want to flaunt because it's what you have. And, you know,
Exactly.
it makes more sense to me that this girl went to the mall and bought an outfit like that and had it, and her mother didn't realize it. She wouldn't leave the house with, what girl's going to leave the house with a dirty outfit?
Well, just to add one more layer of sadness to this, her dad was going through terminal cancer at the time.
Yeah.
So her mom thinks that she was just going for a walk in the night just to clear her mind because she was so depressed about her dad dying.
Yeah.
Her dad actually dies within a year of this whole event happening. But I think that is a good thought. I think it's all stuff to keep in mind that maybe she was wearing a different outfit. It's a possibility that her mom didn't know about. So,
Dear Mark,
like,
not all girls are sneaks. Yeah, that's going to be the email I get.
Yeah, probably. But better you than me. So
It's all right. It's all right. I can take it.
Her mom goes on the computer, just like, let's read her stories, just to kind of see her frame of mind. But there was no story on the computer. Computer expert John Georgie comes and examines the system and finds that she had like all these different email accounts, chat accounts, all this kind of stuff to kind of hide from her mom. So they checked her computer browser history and it was all erased, which is very suspicious.
Yeah.
So,
now, they went on this little weird technological rabbit hole where having a little bit of a data forensic background, I don't think they kind of knew what they were talking about here, because he's saying that she cleared the browser and she deleted all these files in a way that would permanently remove them. Mm-hmm. I have a piece of software that is older than this story that I could just pop into the computer and pull off all those files. There's no 15-year-old that is running software on a Windows machine, which I'm going to assume it was, that is deleting files for real. That I can't pull back within 6 months, actually. Yeah, so
interesting.
It's just some of the stuff is maybe this was like small town. Maybe they didn't have the ability to do data forensics. Maybe the story didn't warrant data forensics until much later. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there that when you delete something off your computer, unless it's in the quote unquote cloud, and you can't retrieve it, it's still there. All you're doing is removing the reference to it to your operating system. Definitely.
Well, thank you. No, you're the tech guy, so I want you to go over all my stuff. If
I literally thought to myself, like, oh, I could have gotten it.
Mr. Georgie. So in the interest of moving the story along, we have a couple people who think that they spotted her, but it turns out no, they didn't. This guy says he is 100% sure that that's her, and no, it wasn't. Mm-hmm. Like, we know for sure it was not her. It's interesting, though. He said he saw a young girl walk into the store that he thinks is Trisha, and that she was being just like verbally berated by this older woman and man, and that they were like talking in hushed tones and never kept their eyes off her. So maybe, to me, that kind of said like maybe it's a sex trafficking situation.
Yeah, I just don't know why they would have her in the public.
Yeah.
I mean, all she would have to do is start screaming, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think you're exactly right. He said her eyes were swollen and stuff, so, you know.
And I was saying
God
that
forbid you get help for her.
It sounds like a slave dom type of underground sex thing, and we don't know for sure, but.
Or hear me out on this, maybe like it was the father and mother, and the teenager was acting like a brat, and they were like, if you don't start getting yourself together, you know, like maybe it was that. They were keeping their eye on her and just talking harshly in hushed tones.
I've been known to speak harshly to my child. So, but I'm not sex trafficking. So it's
thank God for that.
But it is a judgmental type of thing to say, like, well, they were berating her. Like, well, maybe the kid lit a cigarette while in the car or something. I don't know.
And they said that her eyes were swollen, like she had been abused, but maybe she had cried.
Yeah. Well, there is an update.
Yeah, so please.
Oh, no. So 6 months after Trisha disappeared, they came across maintenance man Cody Lynn Nielsen. And,
28 years old.
Yeah. Do we know why? What triggered them into thinking Cody?
Well, yes, we do. So what happened is this guy was like a grade A creeper. He has been convicted of raping 4 women, not including Trisha, and he would follow her and her little gal pal home from school and just say, like, I can get you girls drugs. Why don't you just hop in my car and I'll give you a ride home. But, I got cigarettes, anything a teenage girl could want. So her little friend does hop in the car with him one day, and he takes her to where he worked at a, quote, wildlife predator research facility.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, I know, right? The most fitting thing I've ever heard. They actually, monitored coyotes, I think. So he would take her there in Millville, Utah, about 8 miles away, and he raped her friend. So he was really turning his attention onto Trisha. Her friend said that he had, given Trisha his pager number, and Trisha would call home every day and try and make up excuses to get a ride home so she didn't have to walk and be alone with this guy. So her friend said, I was raped by this guy. They were able to get him on that. And also, around the time of her disappearance, his coworkers, 2 female coworkers, noted that he kept digging up the grounds with a backhoe and covering them back up, and you dig it back up again and cover it. And they said there was no reason for him to be doing that. So police take cadaver dogs and they hit on an area where he was digging.
Don't you love cadaver dogs? I mean, yeah. I just love what they do, because all they're really doing is looking for this smell. And it just seems like when you get them there, they're finding, I don't know, I just trust them so much. And I think we rely on them so much. They're just incredible. I can't call them pets, but they're incredible aspects to any solid crime scene.
Yeah, dogs' noses are so powerful. There's an Unsolved Mysteries that I want to do in the near future called Doggy Bowser MD, and it's about dogs that sniff out cancer.
Oh my God.
In your body, while you're just chilling. So that's crazy. But I've read about cadaver dogs. They are real, they're not pets. You have to keep them chained up and stuff. And you can only let them do it for 5 minutes at a time before they start panting, because that'll throw their smell off. And it's interesting.
Well, there's that story with the World Trade Center thing. Cadaver dogs need to also find living things, from what I understand, or they actually get really bummed out. There's a certain level of an emotional thing. And with these dogs that were being used while searching the World Trade Center, they were finding so many different dead scents that it was affecting the abilities of these dogs. Very sad.
Oh my God. Dogs are the best.
Dogs are the best. You just want to give them a cuddle, but you know what? They're so trained they'll bite me in the face. And I don't want my face to be bitten off.
I don't want that either for you. So police start digging with their own backhoe where the dogs hit, and they find 10 feet down, they find a human jawbone, which they were able to match with Trisha's dental records. So they have found fragments of her. They kept digging, and in multiple sites, they found fragments of bones, fabric, the clothes she was wearing, and they had all been burned.
Yeah. But burned like a bonfire burning, I'm thinking. This isn't...
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that. I mean, you can't just... We talked about this in the last episode with the Corning company. It's very difficult to burn the remains of a body, I'm assuming, for most mammals or anything. You can't just burn them. It's going to leave a lot of DNA behind.
I've seen so many cases where they'll pour gasoline and then flick a match and think that they're good and, get on their merry way. But I feel like, I'm going to have to look this up, but I feel like cremation chambers get up to 7,000 degrees or something crazy like that. It's not a DIY kind of thing.
Right. It reduces it to actual ash and, I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, exactly. So this jerk took her out. She was walking, and like a predator, he saw her and swooped her up, raped her, killed her, dismembered her, and burned her and buried her in multiple places.
Didn't he bury her and then dig her up again?
Yeah.
And then burn her again? Kind of like he said home, he's like, you know what? I wish I did.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I can't leave it all in one spot. And it's just it's such a dark place to go to, but I just hope for the family's sake that they were able to recover like most of her. Like, that they're wondering, God, is there any of her left out there still deep down? Like, it's just horrible. So her dad actually died of his cancer like a month before they found her body. So sadly, her dad died not knowing what had happened to his daughter. Her mom died in 2010. And Trisha's family founded the Trisha Ann Autry Foundation, which supports families who have been affected by online predators.
Well, you know what? We should dig up a link or something and post
that's great.
it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, but like, she wasn't really by an online predator. But I think it's great whatever they're doing, that you can turn such a negative thing into a positive. Far be it from me to crap on that. I'm just
no. I understand where you're coming from. It's kind of like this. I guess on the surface, it looks like an online predator type of situation, but in reality, it was really just a local creep.
Yeah. So. Well, I guess we get a little bit brighter, but not too much.
Well, we get a little bit brighter because I really, really, I love the woman who we're about to talk to. And
she is the cutest thing I've ever seen.
I'm just going to say it right away. She doesn't die at the end. So,
Yay!
Not the end of the story, anyway. Let's hope she's alive today.
She is. I found her Facebook.
Okay, good. Update. So... But Love is Blind, it's a really kind of a tragic story. A woman walks into a hospital. Her baby has a very rare, I don't actually know if it's rare, but congenital glaucoma, which leads to complete blindness if they're not operated on before, I guess, 6 months, I think they said, in it. So, the poor infant needs an operation immediately. And this is in 1965.
Yeah, and can I just say, it was on February 9th of 1965 in the reenactment, in a tiny little scene on the back of the nurse's desk, there is a wall calendar that says February 9th, 1965. And I was like, yes, Unsolved Mysteries. That is such a good detail.
There are set designers that that we would love for them to reach out to us, and we would love to talk to you about this stuff.
And they probably love that we could, like, notice that stuff. They're like, thank you. I worked hard to put that in there.
But you know what? People don't notice these things enough, I think. These are the little details that I think are so important to the reenactments of Unsolved Mystery. Also, just the sets alone are very often wonderful. And the soft focus. It's like they put Vaseline on the lens or something.
But can I tell you where they didn't spend any time or focus is on that baby doll. Oh my God. That was the dolliest looking baby I've ever seen in my life. They showed its face a few times, and it was like a Cabbage Patch doll.
I didn't notice, actually. I didn't notice.
They pick it up, and that thing is just stiff. But I got to say, my MVP reenactor of the episode is Billie Updike, the nurse in the 1960s, because she'll smile at the baby, or when she's sad, she'll be like, oh, baby, and she'll, like, stroke its cheek, and she'll rock the baby. I'm like, you are earning that paycheck, girl.
And that's another thing. I would really love to know more about the reenactors. I really wish that they got more credit and popped up on IMDb.
Same.
It's a life goal. So the bottom line is she leaves the baby overnight, which is a very surprising thing for the nurse to hear, because she said that she has 2 children at home that she can't leave alone, and she'll be back in the morning. Now, I guess I don't know why she's leaving the baby there. Like, that's not totally clear to me.
Oh,
except
really?
that the baby was, is she bringing the baby there to schedule the operation? Is the operation supposed to be the next day?
Yeah, I think it is supposed to be like the next day.
So why wouldn't she have signed off on it while she was there?
I know. Well, because maybe she'd have to use her real name. I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. So, yeah, she leaves the baby there and she hits town. They said they didn't think any of it really was weird except the fact that she was leaving the baby there, but she had a good excuse. Yeah,
so the next morning, it's time for surgery, and they need her to sign off on it, and they keep calling her, and they can't get a hold of her. So the hospital administrator, goes to the address on the form, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just thought that was cool.
Well, that he actually went and did it?
Yeah. That was showing some initiative.
Well, he probably was like, all right, I'm going to go by and find out what the problem is. I guess you're right. I mean, I wonder if he looked it up and he's like, wait, there's nothing there.
Yeah, because when he got there, it was just an empty lot.
Right. I don't know how like something like that happens, but I guess she was walking into the hospital really with that intention of.
Oh yeah. Oh, she gave a fake name. She said the baby's name is Kim. My name's Mary Carson, and I think you're right. I think it was her giving up her baby, which was kind of selfless. I think because in the story I put on it was that she couldn't afford this surgery. She couldn't afford this child. So she was going to make sure that her kid at least got the best chance in life.
Yeah. So, they realize that the girl does in fact need this operation, regardless of whether or not they can find the mother. They put kind of, a search for the mother that really not turning up any type of, any clues whatsoever. And Douglas Pace, who's the administrator at the hospital, convinces a judge to issue a court order to allow them to perform the surgery.
I love Douglas Pace. You go.
Well, it's such a humanitarian thing. I mean, the child, regardless of the circumstances, this child is going to be blind if we don't do this operation on our own dime. And, it really is. It's a selfless type of thing, and Douglas Pace seems like a hell of a guy. So she kind of bounces around different foster homes. They show a photograph of this girl. And
oh my God, she looks like a Pixar character.
At first, you're a little shocked, I think, because you're like, oh, she, you're thinking, all right, she's going to get the operation. Everything is going to be fine. But really what it does is it just corrects it to a point.
Right. So she has to wear like 100 times the magnified glasses.
Yeah, which make her eyes look very magnified. And one of the eyes has, she has remnants of the operation done. Like, there's a certain level of, I guess, physical altering of her eye permanently. But all in all, it's not bad in my eyes.
Well, when you look at her as a kid compared to other children, there are images of her with other children, her actual eyeballs themselves are like at least twice as big. Which is adorable, and she seems like such a sweet little girl. But I think you're right. I think that must have been like from the operations.
I mean, unless part of the problem is that the eyes grew more than maybe part of the eye grew at a different rate. I'm not sure.
Maybe I should have looked into that. Honestly,
I looked up really quickly, and I couldn't find much more than just that it's not that common.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I couldn't find too much on it, but the whole thing is she's fine. She's healing. She wears glasses. I don't think she has remarkable vision. She probably is legally blind, actually, but she can make out things. And she goes on. She gets adopted by two also saints.
Great people.
These seem like amazing parents. They fall in love with the story. They have two children of their own. And I don't know, they just seem like good people.
Yeah, no, the dad was like, I saw her in the paper and I was like, there's my daughter. Like, she is coming home with us. And the mom was like, I guess that's that then. And they bring her home and she is like a member of the family in every sense of the word. We meet her. Her name's Kimberly Dawn's butler at the time. The butlers are the ones who adopted her. So we meet her and she says like, I did have a great childhood, but there was a lot of stuff that my brothers and sisters could do that I couldn't do because of my condition.
I don't know if you got emotional when you saw her talking about that she graduated high school and attended college.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, this is, what? She was able to bypass all of this terrible, terrible past. Really, I mean, honestly, not that much of a past. Her very young past. And she's elevated
being
herself.
Abandoned, it's more than just the eyeball, though, because being abandoned, it's gotta mess you up for life.
And I was trying to put it shouldn't matter, but I'm trying to put my finger on her nationality.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm thinking, maybe Indian. I'm not really sure. She could be a dark Italian.
She's olive skin,
yes.
Definitely.
And the reenactor was white. So, I mean, it was just funny. My wife goes, well, the reenactors were. I'm like, but it's a reenactor. Can't look at that. I can't watch these with you anymore.
I was thinking, wouldn't it be so funny? This would never happen in a million years, but we should have a special episode where Jack and Betsy do one.
It's not the worst idea I've ever heard.
Right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Betsy gets dark
married.
too. That's the problem, is that, she has the whole psyche background.
Yeah, exactly. But, right. I bet it is. Yeah.
Hopefully she gives me nightmares. Poor Jack, he's going to get attacked. No. I mean, I think it's a good idea down the road. Definitely.
Well, as far as this story right here now, in 1989, Kimberly gets married to a guy who seems lovely, equally lovely. And she said, like, I don't care about my birth parents. Like, I am fine just knowing about my adoptive parents. But her son got kind of sickly when he was a baby. And she said when she became a parent, she was like, I need to know who Mrs. Carson was, who dropped me off at the hospital, because I need to know medical record information for my kids. Like, that's the only reason I want to know it. So no update, no nothing.
What's interesting is you and I had spoken about 23andMe, and I think we're both on the same page of like, I don't need to do that. But this is a good candidate to take advantage of a DNA test like that, and you get a breakdown. It's not exactly the same, but you could of course find out a lot about your where you came from.
It's better than nothing,
I'm sure she's done it.
Well, I found her Facebook.
Oh, no, you didn't. Really?
I did, too. It's at the bottom of the list. She is still with her husband. Her kids look happy and healthy. She has grandkids now, and they are like her world. She looks so happy.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm looking at it. She has like a really, really big smile. And I think that she had it when she was a little kid, and it really kind of brought, it carried over to her adulthood.
And you know what? She now is making a family for herself. She has her grandkids, which she posted on her wall, like, this is the reason I breathe, and is for my grandkids. Her kids are very close with her from what I could tell on Facebook. She's still with her husband, so she created for herself that tight family circle, and even though we don't know who her biological parents are, like, she seems to be doing just fine.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where you fall into, you start out having this, like, really kind of depressing situation, and you want the family. And she was given a family, but she wanted her own family. And
flesh and blood.
And it really does remind me a little bit of, I'm just looking up his name really quick, but in our last episode, we talked about the orphan train.
Oh my God, our adopted son, Francis Murphy.
Yes, you're amazing with the memory. But yeah, like I was just, our boy, it's kind of like that, like he created his own family. He went and he wanted it, he created it. And I feel as though Kim did the same thing. She posts things like, my grandchildren are my everything. And it's very sweet. It's very nice. And I hope that her and her husband have nothing but amazing stuff moving forward and forever.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, it's very sweet. So it's always good where we can leave on a very happy note, Kim.
Yeah.
About a Kim as well.
I know.
But yeah, I think that everything, I'm really hoping, I'm not really sure if that illness that she had, that impairment, is, if it carries over. So that was a concern of mine when they were talking about her having children.
Her kids look happy and healthy, and they have kids of their own and stuff. I couldn't even see a speckle of glasses between the two of them, so I think that they're healthy.
And that's another thing.
Respect.
She doesn't wear glasses. I'm assuming maybe contacts, or maybe she just is good enough. Where it's like, look, I got my kid here to hold my arm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But all in all, I'm glad that we ended on a positive note for once.
Thank God, we needed it.
Holy moly. But Kim, thank you so much for getting together. As always, this is an eye-opening and educational episode. I do want to just say, if you are listening to this podcast and you enjoy it, leave us 5 stars. You can write anything you want. You don't need to write a whole long diatribe, just go, hey, this is really great. I hope these people never have to do a story about me. 5 stars.
Yeah, and, find us on Facebook, Unsolved Mysteries Rewind. We'll post all those pictures that we talk about. Cute girl with the big glasses. We'll post pictures of them now. We post crazy GIFs from the episode.
Mug
we like to
shots.
have... Yeah, exactly. And we like to, kind of talk with you guys, see what you guys are feeling. Episode suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
So come find us on Facebook. We have fun there.
Tonight we have been confronted with an entire catalog of unexplained and unsolved events. Tune in next time as Unsolved Mysteries Rewind discusses another collection of unsolved mysteries. Until then, we can only look and wonder.